Use different words, but you'll know. You'll see the signs. And this time, you won't ignore them. This time, you won't be fooled. This time, you'll walk away before they ever get the chance to hurt you. And that is true freedom. So stop waiting for closure. Stop waiting for them to understand. Stop waiting for the day they change, for the day they wake up and get it. They never will. And even if they do, even if they finally realize what they lost, it won't change what they did. It won't erase the scars. It won't bring back the time you wasted. So move on. Not for them, not to make a statement, not to prove anything, but for you. Because the truth is, the moment you stop caring, the moment you stop giving them a place in your mind, that's the moment they truly lose. That's the moment their power dies. And that is the moment you win. And when that happens, when you finally let go, when you finally stop looking back, they'll feel it. They'll feel every ounce of the emptiness they tried to shove into you, and it'll eat them alive. Because the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And the more they expose themselves, the more everyone else sees what you always knew. And by then, you'll be too far ahead to even care. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to fight them. Don't have to argue. Don't have to waste another second proving yourself. You just detach. You just disappear. You just let them rot in the grave they dug for themselves. And the best part? They don't even realize what's happening at first. See? People like them, they think they're invincible. They think they can do whatever they want, betray whoever they want, manipulate, lie, twist, and still come out on top. Because for so long, they got away with it. They charmed their way out of consequences. They talked their way out of responsibility. They always had a backup plan, a way to slither out of accountability. But here's what they don't see coming. Time. Time is the great equalizer. Time exposes everything. Time wears down the lies, the masks, the illusions. Time strips away the performance until there's nothing left but the cold, ugly truth. And when that moment comes, you won't even have to lift a finger. Because people like them, they always self-destruct. It's only a matter of when. At first, they'll act like nothing happened, like they don't care, like they never needed you anyway. They'll pretend to move on, pretend they're thriving, pretend your absence doesn't bother them. But it does. It eats at them. Because deep down, they know what they lost. And the silence, that's what drives them mad. Because silence is power. Silence is the thing they can't manipulate, can't twist, can't control. When you react, they still have a piece of you. When you explain, when you defend, when you argue, they win. Because it means they still matter. It means they still have access to your energy. But when you give them nothing, that's when the panic sets in. That's when the cracks start to show. That's when they start looking over their shoulder. wondering if people are starting to see them for what they really are. And guess what they are?
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura in adults, Nurtec ODT can provide relief in 2 hours, which can last up to 2 days. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after.
And guess what they are? Because the thing about people like them, they don't just betray you, they betray everyone. It's in their nature. They can't help it. They thrive on manipulation, on deception, on feeding off the kindness of others. But eventually, they run out of people to use. Eventually, the bridges they burned lead to nowhere. Eventually, the lies catch up to them. And when that day comes, when they look around and realize they're alone, oh, that's when they'll remember you. That's when they'll start reaching out, pretending like nothing happened, acting like you should just pick up where you left off. And you won't even flinch, because by then, you'll have learned the most important lesson of all. Some people don't deserve closure. They don't deserve explanations. They don't even deserve your anger. They deserve nothing. Because nothing is the only thing that gets through to them. That's when you finally understand. Real revenge isn't about getting even. It's not about making them suffer, not about proving your worth, not about forcing them to see their mistakes. No. Real revenge is moving on. It's healing. It's becoming so untouchable, so unbothered, so free that their entire existence becomes irrelevant to you. And trust me, they'll feel it. They'll feel it in the way the world stops listening to them, in the way people start questioning their stories, in the way they try to play the same games, but suddenly nobody's interested. They'll feel it when they realize they spent their entire life destroying others, only to end up with nothing left. Because people like them, they don't build, they don't grow, they don't create, they only take, only destroy, only feed off the energy of those around them. And once that's gone, once they've drained everyone dry, they have nothing, just the weight of their own emptiness. And you'll be long gone, stronger, wiser, unshakable. And one day, they'll look for you, not because they love you, not because they changed, but because they need you, because they need your light, your energy, your strength. But you won't be there anymore. And that's when they'll know. And that's where the real satisfaction comes in. Not from their downfall, not from seeing them struggle, not even from knowing you were right all along, but from the simple fact that you no longer care. Because that's what they never expected. They thought you'd always be there, always be waiting, always be holding on to the memory of what you thought they were. They thought they could come and go as they pleased, thought they could disappear when it was convenient and reappear when they needed something. They thought you would never be able to move on without them. But oh, how wrong they were. See, people like them, they don't just take your kindness for granted. They see it as weakness. They see your loyalty, your patience, your willingness to forgive. And they think it means they can treat you however they want and still have a place in your life. Because they've done it before. They've pushed boundaries, crossed lines, manipulated, lied, and still managed to slither their way back into your trust. And why? Because they knew you cared. They knew you had a heart. They knew you weren't the kind of person to just cut someone off and never look back. And they used that against you every single time, but not anymore. Because now you see them for what they are. Now you understand that some people only show up when they need something. Now you recognize the patterns, the manipulation, the way they twist words, play the victim, rewrite history to make themselves look innocent. And now, you don't play the game. You don't give them the reaction they crave. You don't engage in their little mind tricks. You don't waste another second explaining yourself to people who already know what they did, but don't care. Because that's the hardest pill to swallow, isn't it? The realization that they knew, that they weren't just careless, weren't just going through something, weren't just making a mistake. Number, they chose it. They chose to hurt you. They chose to lie. They chose to betray you. And when you finally confronted them, what did they do? They minimized it, blamed you, acted like you were the problem for noticing. And that's when it hits you. They never respected you. Because if they did, they would have never put you in a position to question their loyalty in the first place. And if they did, they wouldn't have justified their actions, wouldn't have made excuses, wouldn't have tried to gaslight you into believing it was all in your head. But they did. And that tells you everything you need to know. So now you walk away, not with anger, not with resentment, not with a need to make them suffer, just with clarity. Clarity that they were never who you thought they were. Clarity that they never deserved you. Clarity that the only mistake you made was ignoring the red flags when they first started waving. And you won't make that mistake again, because now you see how this world really works. You see that some people only value you when they can use you. You see that loyalty is just a word to some, not a principle. You see that just because you would never do something doesn't mean others think the same way. And most importantly, you see that the best way to deal with people like that is to let them go. Let them destroy themselves. Let them play their little games with someone else. Let them keep pretending, keep lying, keep manipulating until they have nobody left. And trust me, that day will come. Because people like them, they always run out of victims. They always reach a point where nobody trusts them, nobody believes them, nobody wants them around. They end up exactly where they deserve, alone. Not because the world is cruel, not because people turned against them, but because They did it to themselves. And by then, you'll be so far ahead, so at peace, so completely detached from their existence that when you hear their name, you won't feel anger. You won't feel sadness. You won't feel anything, because you'll finally understand that they were nothing more than a lesson. And that lesson, it made you unstoppable, because now you know. You know that the more you ignore, the more they expose themselves. And now you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fight for your truth. You don't need to convince anyone of who they really are. Because time does that for you. Time always tells the truth. Time always reveals the masks. Time always shows people's true colors. And you just keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate revenge. Living well, succeeding, thriving, ... And when they finally realize that they lost something irreplaceable, it'll be too late, because you're never looking back.
With over 500 million items, Walmart has everything you need to completely make over your backyard this year. Dad, what do you think?
Shh, he loves it. It's the backyard of his dreams.
You keep pretending you do not know what is wrong. And that is the funniest part, because you know it so well, you have built a small museum around it in your head, with carefully labeled exhibits and soft lighting, and excuses that sound mature when you say them out loud. But you walk through those halls at night, and you touch the glass, and you feel the truth humming underneath, don't you? You feel it like a wire under the skin, like something that never stops vibrating, and you hate it, because it never lets you fully relax. So you bargain with it, you distract it, you feed it little treats and little stories and little screens and little bursts of comfort, and you call that getting by. You call that coping. You call that being realistic. And then you wake up and realize you have been realistic for years, and all it has done is make you smaller, quieter, easier to ignore, even by yourself. And you still act surprised when your own reflection looks like someone who forgot what they wanted. Someone who used to have a fire and now has a pile of ash they keep stirring, hoping a flame will politely appear without effort, without heat, without sacrifice, without choosing. Because choosing would mean admitting you wasted time, and you are terrified of that. You are terrified of the math, of adding up the hours you offered to comfort instead of growth, to noise instead of skill, to approval instead of character. And I can see you trying to keep your face steady while that thought presses its thumb into your ribs, because you are not lazy, not really. You are exhausted from carrying two lives at once, the life you show people and the life you hide from them. The life of I'm fine and the life of I'm falling behind. And you have been balancing those two lives so long, you started calling the imbalance normal. You started calling the ache just how adulthood feels. You started calling your own potential a childish dream. And what a clever trick. What an elegant little betrayal. To call your own hunger immature so you can starve without guilt. To call your own standards unrealistic so you can lower them without shame. And then you wonder why you cannot look yourself in the eyes for very long. Why you keep busy. Why silence feels like a courtroom where every promise you broke takes the stand. And don't you dare tell me you do not know what I'm talking about, because you remember the exact moment you began to settle. The moment you realized you could survive without becoming who you said you would be. And you told yourself survival was enough. And maybe it was, for a season. Maybe it was necessary. But you turned the season into a lifestyle. You turned emergency mode into identity. You turned I'll rebuild later into a long, slow surrender. And you kept smiling through it because smiling is polite. Smiling keeps people comfortable. Smiling gets you invited back. And you have been trained to be invited back more than you have been trained to be free. You want the world to stop asking things of you, but you keep volunteering your soul for tasks that do not even matter to you. You keep performing competence while neglecting conviction. You keep polishing the outside of a life you do not respect on the inside. And the worst part is, you are not fooled by it. You are just participating, because participation is less painful than confrontation. And confrontation would demand you stop lying to yourself about what you have been avoiding. So you call it procrastination, as if it is a scheduling issue, as if it is a calendar problem, as if a new planner and a fresh week and a clever app would fix the ancient thing inside you that flinches at effort. Not because you cannot do it, but because you are scared of what it means if you try with everything you have and the world still does not clap, still does not notice, still does not reward you the way you imagined it should. And you have been living with that fear like a tenant you never evict. You have been paying it rent with your attention, with your hours, with your energy, with your self-respect. And then you act confused when you feel poor inside. Listen, you do not need another burst of motivation. You do not need another dramatic speech. You do not need a perfect morning routine that turns you into a different person by Tuesday. You need something far less glamorous, something almost insultingly simple. You need to tell the truth about what you do each day, not what you intend, not what you promise, not what you post, what you actually do. Because your life is not made of your feelings. It is made of your repetitions. And right now, your repetitions are building a cage with very nice wallpaper. And you keep calling it home because at least it is familiar. You want to be disciplined, but you keep treating discipline like a mood, like a special weather that must arrive before you can move. And so you sit there waiting for the sky to change, and the sky does not care. It never did, it never will, because the sky is not your leader. You are. And you have been abdicating. You have been letting impulse run the meeting, letting comfort write policy, letting distraction decide the agenda. And then you blame the day, as if the day had hands that grabbed you, as if the day forced you to scroll, forced you to snack on attention, forced you to chase novelty until your mind feels like a room full of open tabs, all humming, none finishing, all demanding, none fulfilling. Look at me. Don't drift. You already know you can do hard things because you have done them when you had to, when there was a deadline, when there was a consequence, when there was a person watching, when there was a fear sharp enough to move you. So the ability is not the issue. The issue is that you do not treat your own future like a real consequence. You treat it like a story you can rewrite later. You treat tomorrow like a forgiving friend. But tomorrow is not a friend. Tomorrow is a bill collector, and it always arrives, and it never forgets what you spent. You want to change without discomfort? You want growth without strain? You want to become someone you respect without disappointing the version of you that clings to ease. And that is the quiet truth no one told you. That you cannot keep everyone inside you happy. You cannot keep the comfort seeker satisfied and the builder fulfilled at the same time. One of them has to lose authority, and you keep letting the wrong one hold the microphone because it sounds kind, it sounds soothing, it sounds like compassion. But it is not compassion to keep yourself stuck. It is neglect with a soft voice. It is abandonment wearing a warm sweater, and you know it. Because every time you promise yourself tomorrow, you feel that tiny drop in your chest, that tiny betrayal, that tiny fracture. And those fractures do not heal with optimism. They heal with action. Small, consistent, almost boring action that proves you are not just a person with thoughts, you are a person with standards. You do not need to punish yourself. You do not need to drown in regret. You need to stop treating regret like a personality and start treating it like a signal. Because regret is not a throne, it is a signpost. It points, and then it expects you to walk. And if you keep sitting under it, you are not reflecting. You are just hiding in intelligence, using self-awareness as a hiding place. Because thinking about change is easier than changing. And talking about discipline is easier than being disciplined. And consuming content about productivity is easier than producing anything that would make you proud. And you have been feasting on the easier versions for so long, you forgot the taste of earned peace. The kind that comes when you lay your head down at night and there is no secret argument between you and you. No silent accusation, no quiet disgust. Just the calm of a person who did what they said they would do, even when they did not feel like it. That calm is not reserved for special people. It is reserved for consistent people. And consistency is not a personality trait. It is a practice. It is a skill. It is a decision you make again and again until it becomes your posture, until your habits start obeying you instead of negotiating with you. And yes, you will fail sometimes. You will wobble. You will miss days. You will make mistakes. Because you are a human, not a machine.
Booking.com has stays for absolutely anyone. Imagine you're a musical-obsessed couple. You book a dazzling hotel in the Big Apple, 5 stars, with a balcony for your big solo. If Broadway buffs can find their perfect stay, anyone can. Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
But the difference between someone who rebuilds and someone who repeats the same year forever is not perfection. It is ownership. It is the moment you stop explaining and start correcting. The moment you stop narrating your pain and start converting it into structure. The moment you stop demanding the world understand you and start demanding you lead you. You have been starving for focus like it is some rare resource, like it is hidden in a mountain cave guarded by mythical creatures. And yet you hand it away every day to the loudest thing in the room. You donate it to alerts and trending topics and endless opinions that do not improve your life. You let strangers rent space in your mind and you call it being informed. You let the world tug at your sleeve every 5 seconds and you call it staying connected. But you are not connected. You are scattered. You are stretched thin. You are divided into so many tiny fragments of attention that none of them can build anything real. And then you wonder why your work feels heavier, why learning feels slower, why you cannot finish what you start, why you start doubting your intelligence as if your mind suddenly became weak, when really your mind is just overfed on novelty and undertrained in depth, like a muscle that only ever lifts light, flashy weights for show and never does the slow, quiet repetitions that actually make it strong. You do not lack